Okay, it is time for another top 10 list of books. And this one's a little weird because this isn't really like my top 10 favorite or anything like that. This is my top 10 list of banned books in my personal library. This is something some of you have asked about in other videos, so here we go. This isn't really a top 10 like 1 through 10 of my favorite or anything like that. Just the number 10 on this list has a very special reason for being on that spot, and I'll get to that here in a minute. But first off, I think it's important to define a banned book, because a lot of what's called banned now is really more people having concerns about age-appropriate books. So for instance, if I go to my kids' school library or something and I request the 1981 issue of Hustler magazine, I will be told no on the grounds that I'm asking for pornography, and that is not something that my tax dollars is going to buy for the children's library to have in the periodical section. So something like that is not really an issue of it hasn't been banned, it's just considered pornographic material, so it's not in a children's library. So I want to make that clear up front, because that's one of the things that frustrates me to no end, where people will say, why can't we have book X or whatever in the public library or in a children's library in a grade school? And to me, the standard for that is if I can't read the book out loud on broadcast television, it probably shouldn't be in a children's library. And that's not it being banned. If I can buy it openly on Amazon, it is not a banned book. So that brings me to my criteria. If I can't buy it on Amazon, which is kind of the standard for book selling now, that is what I'm using as my criteria for whether or not it is banned. So these are all books that have been banned from Amazon, some relatively recently. With that criteria in mind, obviously these books are not illegal to have. I'd like to point that out. None of these books are pornographic in nature. That's also an important criteria. These are books that just have been simply banned from major booksellers offering them. You can find some of these books for sale, but it definitely takes some work to find that. So that's my criteria. So first off is the Behind the Balfour Declaration. This is a book simply explaining the hidden origins of today's Mideast crisis. This book is from August of 1988, written by author Robert John, and it's simply about the conditions set forth and the why and how of it all of the Balfour Declaration. And I'm going to leave it right there and let you look that up. This is Britain's Great War Promise. So anyway, Balfour Declaration between Lord Balfour and Lord Rothschild. So anyway, moving right along, this is one that used to be available, but now is not. This is The Synagogue of Satan by Andrew Carrington Hitchcock. And this is from 2007. I think I picked this up at a Half Price Books in Dallas in 2008. The interesting thing about this book is it is merely a catalog of events. It's not really much in the way of commentary. It is just a timeline of events. 1920, Winston Churchill writes the following in an article on page 5 of the Illustrated Sunday Herald dated February 5th. And it just goes on through, a series of 1947, the British, who prior to World War II declared that there would be no more immigration to Palestine in order to protect the Palestinians from their own. Anyway, so this is basically a timeline of events. And the cover art of the book is the red shield from the Rothschilds, which is translated into Red Shield. And that, of course, is the hexagram. So, very interesting book. This is Judaism's Strange Gods by Michael Hoffman. And this is an interesting book in that it started out as a very thin paperback. I think the original version was maybe 120 pages or so. Then it was expanded to Judaism Discovered, which is a massive, like 1,000-page book, and then was condensed to this version here, Judaism, Strange God. So otherwise I would say all three are in fact banned from the Amazon, but this one is probably the most comprehensive and best version of all those three. And the first edition is from 2011, and this is a fascinating book. It's basically going through, this is based off of one of the 10 Commandments, thou shalt have no strange gods before me, and this basically traces the idolatry of the Talmud and all of the things therein in rabbinical Judaism and all the problems with rabbinical Judaism and how it does not comport with Mosaic law. So anyway, very interesting and very banned book. And this is another one I was kind of surprised. Very scholarly work, excellent material in here about rabbinical Judaism and the practice thereof. So, but that one is very much banned. This next one is a strange one that I found at Half Price Books. It's called Revolution Q by Neon Revolt. Don't know who that is. I was not big into the QAnon thing at all, so this one kind of surprised. This is from 2019. But here's the interesting thing in this. I picked this up in a Half Price Books in the, I think it was the, I'm trying to think of the section. It's a, usually Half Price Books will have like an espionage section and usually in that section there'll be like around the world history area, there will be an espionage section and sometimes like a conspiracy section. And sometimes you can find stuff like that in here. And I picked this up and I was like, the story of QAnon. And I'm thinking, oh, so what kind of wackadoodle stuff is in this? And one of the interesting things in here is, and I'm just going to have to hold this up. I cannot say what this is about. I'm just going to merely use the euphemism postoffense. This episode that came up on Instagram and that surfaced back in, I believe, late 2016, around the 2016 election, the postoffense episode, is so incendiary that even saying the name, the actual name, and I'm sure someone will put it in the comment section if you're curious. So go down there if you aren't familiar with that. But about these symbols and all of this episode of history was so bizarre that even saying the name of this episode will cause cause me to get a strike against this channel and probably have this video pulled down, and I'll have to take another online course about hate speech. So I'm not going to even mention that. Okay, this is another interesting one that is by Germar Rudolph, Dissecting the Holocaust. This one is from, let's see, this is the second revised edition from, let's see, 2003, August of 2003. And this is just all about the gas chambers and camps and numbers and such. And this is another one that sadly I can't describe too much in detail, or just getting too far into the weeds on that could get my channel, a strike against my channel. So Dissecting the Holocaust, make what you will of that. But it is basically critiquing some of the numbers of the official numbers and official information and data of the Holocaust. Now, funny thing about that, I have an issue with the terminology of Holocaust, and here's why. Holocaust means a burnt offering or burnt sacrifice. And to me, you can't sacrifice something that's not yours. If I go and steal a cow out of one of my neighbor's ranches out here and go sacrifice that cow, that's not really a sacrifice. That's a theft of an animal. And then I just murdered the animal. So it's not really a sacrifice. Doesn't really, how would I make that a burnt offering to God? So Holocaust, in the context of Germans exterminating Jews, how that could be a burnt sacrifice to God, if I was Jewish, I would have a huge problem with that terminology, because you're essentially saying that the Germans exterminated a whole bunch of your people in what amounts to a burnt offering to your God. Yeah, I have a problem. That's just weird to me. So again, I have a problem with the Holocaust as a term to use for that. Mass murder would make more sense. Anne Frank's Diary, A Hoax by Ditleib Felderer. And this one is from 1978. Very interesting book. This is another one. I picked this one up at Half Price Books in Oklahoma City. And I was kind of curious. I was like, wonder what that says. And I wish I could tell you, but that's another one that would get me in a lot of trouble for talking about that. So make of it whatever you will. But now, this is an interesting one that some of you have looked for, and some of you were the ones that told me that this one had actually been removed from Amazon. This is The Second Holocaust, How the AIDS Epidemic Was Created in a CIA Black Operation by Michael, and I'm not sure if that's Mears or Myers or how you pronounce his last name. This one was published in relatively recently, 2013, and it was only available for just a few years, and then it was scrubbed from the Amazon. And I'm not sure exactly why. I mean, it is obviously, make of what you will of the subject matter. Michael Myers or Mears originally published a book about Jonestown back in, I believe in 1989, 1990 or so. That's about yay thick. I've reviewed it elsewhere, and I'll see if I can link it at the end screen. That one is, as far as I can tell, still available. And that one is titled, I believe it was Jonestown, a CIA Medical Experiment. This picks up where that left off. It has a lot of very good, up-to-date information about a lot of that, but no sooner did it come out was it removed. So, and who knows whether or not that has anything to do with the pandemic that we went through recently. Could be related, could not, I don't know. Confessions of a Holocaust Revisionist, Part 1 by Bradley R. Smith. This is another one I picked up at Half Price Books, just out of curiosity, from 1988. And the interesting thing to me about the whole topic of Holocaust revisionists and that sort of thing is, if you look at World War II official data and you say, I think there was maybe 5 million people killed in the, what we're calling the Holocaust or whatever. I think Nazi Germany, I think they executed, say, 5,599,000 or whatever Jewish people. You would be considered a Holocaust denier, because anything less than the 6 million, the official 6 million number, is considered Holocaust denial, especially in Germany. I believe in Germany, I think that's actually can land you in jail for that. But I find that interesting that even you don't have to say it didn't happen or anything like that. You could just say, I believe the official numbers are inflated or a product of wartime propaganda, and that is considered officially as Holocaust propaganda. Holocaust denial, sorry. Now, this is another interesting one that was available up until fairly recently. This is The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, Volume 1. Now, I have all 3 volumes, and all 3 volumes are, in fact, banned from Amazon. This was originally published, I want to say in like 1991. Yeah, 1991, by the Nation of Islam. And the whole point of this book is, whether or not you agree with it or not, again, I'm trying to present this all without judgment, just for you, the audience, to think about these things. This is presented as a case by the Nation of Islam to the black citizens of the United States of why to be very wary of Jewish involvement in the civil rights movement, because as they make the case in this book, that much of the modern slavery, and by modern I mean within the right up to the Civil War era slavery, was mainly a Jewish enterprise. And they back it up. They have the receipts, all the paperwork of who the main movers and shakers were in the slave trade. So very interesting information, obviously very controversial information. So make of that whatever you will. But this is part of a 3-volume set. And I might just do a review just on all 3 of those books because very fascinating. And I also have a book that purports to be a rebuttal of this book. So now the final book is in this stack, and I saved this for last for a special reason, which I will explain. This is The Hoax of the 20th Century by A.R. Butts. Yep, funny name. And this one is from, let's see. This is the 4th printing from 1979. Now, this is a Holocaust, a book questioning the validity of the Holocaust, the gas chambers, all the things. And this is another one. I can't go into too much about it on here other than just to say that's what it's doing, is breaking down the numbers of the Holocaust and the feasibility of gas chambers and that sort of thing, and whether or not some of that was technically possible or not. Again, whether or not you agree with the conclusions of the author, this is in fact a banned book. Now, why did I save this for last? I saved this for last because this is one of those books I had heard mentioned in the parapolitical world. People had cited this book and mentioned that it had in fact been banned. And I went on Amazon and I found it. And I was like, hey, there it is. And it wasn't terribly expensive. So I thought, I'll go ahead and buy it to add it to my collection. So I bought it. I can't remember what I paid for this originally. It wasn't terribly expensive, but I bought it. And this is the first time that I bought a book within the continental US, and somewhere I have this saved. When it arrived, it had very obviously been opened and put into a new envelope and resealed. And inside that package was a note alerting me that because of the material I had ordered, that my mail had been inspected by the postmaster general, or whatever they call him, about basically that to just let me know I'm being watched because I had bought this book, that it had in fact put me on a list. And I got a little polite note saying as such that your mail has been inspected and here's why it's being inspected and you're on notice, buddy. And it was all very polite, and I have it saved somewhere, but this is the only book that I have ever ordered off of Amazon that resulted in that kind of attention from the US Postal Service. And which is funny because I have ordered some stuff, in my opinion, I thought way crazier than The Hoax of the 20th Century. So I found that to be especially interesting that for ordering this book, I got a polite shot across my bow of saying, we're watching you, buddy. So anyway, so that is my list of 10 banned books. Again, top 10 doesn't really fit because these aren't necessarily like my favorite books or anything like that. I just find these ever more interesting by way of their banning from Amazon and other similar platforms. Now, I have some runners-up that I think are worthy of including in this. First off, we have Children for the Devil, which was retracted by the publisher, and there's still a few copies floating around out there. You can find this on Amazon still, but it is very expensive. This is another one like that. This is The Six-Pointed Star by O.J. Graham. And I looked this up the other day to see if it was still available. And it's just all about the origins of the hexagram and how it is not, contrary to popular belief, related to Judaism in any way, shape, or form, especially biblical Judaism. Very interesting book, but as of last night when I checked, it was going for almost $300 on the Amazon. And then last but not least, we have this book, which I can't even say the title. If I say the title, that just talking about this book, you can still buy it on Amazon. But talking about this and reviewing this book, saying the title out loud, discussing the contents of this book will have this video pulled, and I will get a strike for hate speech for even discussing that. And this one as well. Finally, last book of the video. This is another one that I had this review pulled. You can still buy this on Amazon, but I had this one pulled and I got a strike against my channel for hate speech for discussing this book and the contents thereof, and more specifically, discussing the author. So that is unfortunately all I can say about that, because I have to be very careful with these books and this subject matter, because this is like a giant stack of kryptonite where YouTube is concerned. So I will stop there. I hope that you found that embiggening to your mind. Those of you interested in banned literature, there you go. There's some interesting food for thought. Some good discussion material for those of you like me that are fascinated by books and censorship and such. So anyway, I've already gone on long enough, so I hope you enjoyed the list of 10. Again, not really my top 10 list, but in 10 very interesting banned books, we'll put it that way, and also some interesting runners up. So thanks for watching, and again, on the end screen, I'll link to some of the other related titles.